the Town of Walpole Select Board meeting of April 6th, 2021. The time being passed as we do with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you could please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I'll remind all of our viewers that we'll be participating remotely due to the unprecedented time in the history of the Commonwealth. The governor has authorized remote participation for all public boards due to the emergency declaration order issued on March 12th, 2020. Therefore, there will be a roll call vote. It started right out of the gate. The first item under appointments, which is, excuse me, with Sarah Khatib. There she is, Sarah Khatib from Destination Downtown. Be giving a quick presentation on the local rapid recovery planning program grant. What that means for the town, what it means for residents and for businesses. And then we also have Pat Deshane here as well from the town. So Sarah, please.
Okay, great. I'm going to share my screen, I guess.
Should be. Yep.
So, how's that? Do you see my screen or?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, great. So good evening, members of the Select Board, Jim Johnson, members that are watching. My name is Sarah Khatib, and I'm the founder and president of Destination Downtown. And I'd just like to thank you for inviting us here to talk about the COVID-19 Local Rapid Recovery Grant that Walpole was recently awarded from the Massachusetts Department of Housing and Community Development. So as this is the first time that I'm appearing before your board in this capacity, I'd just like to take a few moments and tell you about our organization. So first, I'd like to thank and acknowledge the Destination Downtown Board of Directors. Every effort that we have undertaken as a board has been a team effort. And each member of the board, who are all leaders in their own right, past and current, have all contributed immensely to our success. So our board recognizes the strength of a diverse board. And as such, we are interested to add additional members, youth members, people of color, people of the retirement age, and downtown business owners. So to anyone listening, please reach out to us if you're interested in joining. So Destination Downtown, who are we? We are a nonprofit focused on revitalizing downtown Walpole. We follow the Main Street America approach to revitalization. And we really see ourselves as a bridge between town hall and business, and the business and residential community. So we officially formed in June of 2019, and since that time, we have sought to bring new life downtown with community events and improvements in the physical space. So listed as a couple of things that we've done. We commissioned an artist to create a cartoon map of downtown. We held an art and music festival on the town common last fall. We did, in cooperation with the town, a Bear of a Summer window painting event at downtown businesses. And over the holidays, we held a community event lighting several trees in the town common. And most recently, we've been doing business spotlights of various businesses around Walpole. So this slide here shows the map that was created. And the map has been distributed to downtown or to town hall and to several downtown businesses. And we're interested in doing a second printing of the map. And I'd like to make the official ask of the town to potentially contribute funds to that second printing. The first printing was in the middle of the pandemic, and it was understandably difficult for the town to contribute at the time. But we've worked cooperatively with the town on several projects, many that I mentioned, and we really look forward to continuing that cooperation and to continue to work on future projects. So one thing that I'd like to call your attention to, so we know that the town is interested in doing some improvements in this main parking lot where I'm kind of pointing. And we'd love to be a part of those discussions as we have several ideas. Also, we'd like to do a sign improvement program downtown, and we feel that can really create needed visual changes to the downtown and really spur the revitalization. Also, the community One Stop for Growth. That's the way that the town can apply for several grants, and we'd love to partner with the town and be involved in setting priorities especially for the downtown area. And then the main focus of why we're here, the local rapid recovery program. So Pat is going to tell you a lot about it, but I just wanted to take just a moment and just state that I think it's a really great opportunity to offer technical assistance to our downtown businesses. And that's both as they recover from COVID and to help position them for long-term growth. And also, I think it's a great opportunity for the town, as well as Destination Downtown, to plan for long-term growth of the town center. And two things that are kind of near and dear to my heart would be the central business district zoning. So we have an opportunity to evaluate and potentially make improvements there. And then also to improve our public spaces and the walkability of downtown. So I'm going to turn it over to Pat, who is going to continue with the presentation.
Thank you, Sarah. So the Local Rapid Recovery Program offered by DHCD is a great opportunity for the town of Walpole to be involved with. Not only do we get to look at possible long-term changes to the downtown, but more importantly, we get to study the impacts of how COVID-19 has impacted our local economy, what measures we can take in the short term for rapid recovery for our local businesses. In essence, the grant was put out for towns to apply in the winter of 2020. In early 2021, towns were notified whether or not they received the grant, and in all likelihood, hopefully we'll be wrapping up this project before the end of the fiscal year. So the turnaround time for something like this is, in the name of the grant, it's rapid. We want to be able to analyze both the situation, what's happening locally, but also take an opportunity to take data statewide to incorporate that into some of our responses. Next slide, please. So just to kind of add a little bit of context to what I mean by statewide, the town of Walpole is one of 125 communities that is participating in this grant program. So while we will get responses and strategies that are geared towards Walpole, one of the first processes involved in this grant is kind of a uniform survey that DHCD wants us to both advertise with local businesses, and specifically when towns apply, they want to focus on commercial centers, whether it's a downtown or a town center of some sort. So it's geographically based. It's not just town-wide. That was just the nature of the grant. Obviously, some of the answers that we will get will be transferable to all businesses locally, not just downtown. So being one of 125 communities, it enables us to not only take the data that we will get from our initial survey that's ongoing, from our local businesses, but being able to take that information from the other 124 communities, it gives the state a really good insight in terms of how much COVID-19 has impacted local town centers, which is just imperative knowledge for sure. Sarah, next slide, please. So in terms of Walpole, we are focusing on the central business district, which is highlighted in blue there. The process for our grant is similar to other towns. You start with outreach and data gathering. As I mentioned, there is that kind of uniform survey that we're currently trying to publicize with downtown businesses. From there, data-driven solutions are key. That's kind of the basis for this grant itself. From there, after that outreach and that state and future stakeholder meetings, which will be happening in the next few weeks, we'll be able to formulate kind of recommendations and strategies that we can implement short-term, which is short-term solutions to help businesses recover as soon as possible. We'll also be able to take some of the feedback and some of the knowledge that we'll be able to get from the data that's attained to get long-term solutions as well. Ultimately, before the end of the fiscal year, we want to be able to have a concise and actionable local rapid recovery plan. And so the key word in that is certainly actionable. Often towns will always do studies to take a look at what they can do to get foot traffic, what they can do for revitalization. While that is certainly important with this grant in terms of long-term solutions, ultimately we want to find solutions that we can implement quickly, that are achievable, that can actually bring us good results, instant results for our local businesses. Next slide, please. So, and what I mean by those instant results is our short-term goals for this project. Online sales and marketing. Obviously, within the past year, we've noticed that if you can't kind of adapt to the 21st century, unfortunately, it was a real hit for some of those mom and pop restaurants and small businesses that may have been deficient in some of those areas in terms of marketing or our online footprint. So being able to kind of get online marketing materials and strategies that we can produce or that we can provide for our local businesses, that's definitely a major short-term goal. On top of that, a possible downtown district app, and that could be something to start sort of like an online marketplace or something where it's kind of like a one-stop shop where town residents and visitors would be able to find information locally within our downtown. Pedestrian corridors. So one of the interesting things that I've noticed, especially being in Walpole for a little while, is there's a lot of good little pedestrian footpaths, little corridors connecting to off-street parking and the like. So that was one of kind of our short-term goals, is how can we kind of activate those areas and kind of bring some more pedestrian foot traffic to our downtown. Long-term, medium to long-term goals. Ultimately, central business district zoning, we would like to have that kind of evaluated to see, where its strengths are, where its weaknesses, and what we can do to, have the best zoning we possibly can within our central business district. As Sarah mentioned earlier, a sign and storefront and facade program is another great solution that is kind of more of a long-term goal, but it's important to take a look at what we have currently and where can we improve, what can we try to incentivize visually for some of our local businesses. And then finally, a comprehensive wayfinding program. This is always a kind of a goal for towns in terms of looking at their signage, looking at trying to really create a sense of vibrancy in place. And so wayfinding is a great solution to really try to improve the character of a downtown for sure. Next slide. So this is mostly just questions. I know I had tried to go through that fairly quick. And Sarah had emailed I think a list of links kind of notifying and talking about the program a little bit. So if anyone has any questions.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Pat, and thanks, Sarah, for that quick overview, and also Sarah for the quick reminder about Destination Downtown, and what you all are doing. I think probably the most organized way to do that is just to go around to the board members at this point and see if you have any questions, any comments, anything further in that regard. So why don't we go around? David, if we could start with you, please.
Sure, thank you. Is there a timeline for, getting these questionnaires done, and like when does it?
The surveys, if you mean the surveys to the businesses, those should be, as soon as possible. We'd really like, most of them complete this week, if at all possible, or, maybe into like early next week.
And but is there an expectation that you're going to have good information to work with and good advice from the consultants and everybody by the end of the summer, or what is that? I mean, I understand it's supposed to be a rapid response. I just didn't know if there is a sort of timeline.
So ideally, the program is supposed to conclude with your local rapid recovery plan before the end of the fiscal year. Those short-term goals are something that we want to be able to roll out well within 6 months. Something that can really be done quickly. So I don't know if that helps answer your question.
Yeah, thank you. That's all. Good job. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, David. Mark Gallivan, please.
Thanks, Pat and Sarah. I think the whole idea of this project is a great one. Anything we can do to continue to develop the downtown and, all of the Walpole businesses is great. We had done that study a year and a half ago. One of the things it talked about was the signage. And I think it would be great to really start to work on that. The past year has been sort of not as many people downtown due to COVID, but you can already see it in the last couple of weeks as people are getting vaccinated. There's more people out and about driving, and anything we can do to help them figure out where the parking areas are quickly, and then get to the stores or get to the fields, wherever they're going. So I think this is great. I think the timing is perfect, and really look forward to seeing this move along. So thank you, both of you.
Thanks.
Nancy McKenzie, please.
Sarah, I think it's great. I know you've started this a while ago and the outreach and stuff to get focused, so that's great. And Patrick, thank you for helping her get that grant and with the writing and technical assistance. I am wondering, how are you getting these surveys out? How are you getting them to the businesses?
So we emailed as many businesses, downtown businesses that we had contacts for, and then we're also doing like kind of a door-to-door thing, going out physically with these lovely flyers that we have for downtown businesses. And, that presents an opportunity to really talk with business owners or business managers as well about the program and what it is. So it's really a combination of email, a little bit of social media, requesting that businesses contact us for that survey link, and then, talking with them one-on-one.
That sounds good. Have you guys reached out also to the EDC? I know Harry is already on your board for as far as the chamber goes, but have you also reached out over there and see if you can, kind of pull from them too?
We have reached out a little bit. We haven't been able to really make contact, but I know maybe Pat can talk, because they're having a meeting coming up soon.
Yep. So I had my first meeting with them last month, and so I did bring it up just in kind of our initial discussion. But obviously, I think it'd be great to to have Sarah there for a future meeting to kind of really go in deep and talk about the grant to a more extent. I also do want to make some point of clarification. It was actually Ashley Clark who helped Sarah out with the application for this grant back in late 2020. So.
Very good. Thank you. Good job.
It was great. Great help. Ashley did a great job helping us. So helpful.
Super.
Thanks, Nancy. Jim O'Neill.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. So critically important that we move forward to help the downtown. as we come bouncing back from this pandemic, hopefully in the next few months. And I know that there's a lot of businesses in town that have struggled to stay in business. Frankly, I've been very pleased with how many have been able to make a go of it. And I think that says a lot about the town getting behind our businesses in the downtown, which is so important. So this is another step down that path, and one that I think is going to be really, really helpful. In the application itself, Sarah, you talked about short term, near term versus longer term. I don't think anything really long term, but longer term thinking. And I like that because we're going to get the running start into getting businesses up and running, the technology that you talked about and all that. But then there's that longer term question, and the thing that's on all of our minds is as all these apartments and condos are coming online, and we have more and more and more people that are living in the proximate area to the downtown, creating that foot traffic and being able to have people get around easily is going to be really, really important. So I saw that was part of one of the longer term goals, and fully support that as well. So I think this is a really, really, really good first step, and I applaud you and Ashley and Patrick for getting out in front of this, and just fully support it. So thanks for everything you're doing. Really appreciate it.
Great. And I'll just add, so as a part of this process, so we have an assigned plan facilitator, and he, works with the community and works with the organization and town officials to develop a plan. But as he sees a need for like expert witness or expert, consultant. So let's say, we really identify the need to evaluate our zoning, then they can bring in, a consultant specialized in zoning. So this grant has the flexibility to bring in others. And I really think that's great.
Yeah, agreed.
Great, thank you, Jim. Yeah, and I would just echo that. I think sometimes, building on what you just said, Sarah, sometimes the grants or funds that we get from the state are really tightly constrained. And this is one case where we may not be getting direct funds allocated for use in the field, so to speak. It's just for the consulting and other work to help out. And considering that, as Jim O'Neill pointed out, in condos, but also the fact that we're going to be updating the master plan. There's so much going on, and to be able to make
did we lose him?
I think we lost Ben.
It's just me, or he's gone?
No, you're still here, Sarah.
Okay.
There you go. Ben's moving now.
You can't see me at all?
No, I see you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh,
We lost probably the last 2 minutes of whatever you said.
Oh, that's thank goodness for that. I think that was just Zoom telling me to stop talking. In any event, thank you, Pat, and thanks, Sarah, again, for coming in and giving us this presentation, and we look forward to hearing more in the near future.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
You too.
Okay. We'll move on to the next item on our agenda tonight, which is the request for change of manager for 7-Eleven. And Jim, if somebody was coming in tonight for that, or?
I believe
That's
that's someone on there. I think there's someone here, W-A-L, yeah, Walla.
yeah, that's me.
Oh, that's Walla here.
Oh, all right, hello. All right, so, and I guess, excuse me, but so Aoife, all the paperwork is in order for this change of manager?
Yes,
That is correct.
Yeah, I received everything and I got the sign up from Lieutenant White and everything at the police department. So everything's good on that end.
Okay, great, thank you. Any other questions or comments from the board? Seeing that there is none, I'd give a motion.
Make a motion to approve the request for a change of manager for 7-Eleven to Walla Magali.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Being that there is no further discussion, we'll proceed with a roll call vote. David?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Nancy?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
And Ben, aye. The motion passed 5-0-0. Walla, thank you for coming in tonight, and best of luck to you.
Thank you so much.
All right. Have a good evening. Moving on to the next item, which is the first item under new business, is a discussion on left-hand turn lane, the athletic complex. So this is something that Jim Johnson and I had talked about previously. It's an issue that was raised back when this project was first passed at town meeting, as far as safety of traffic in town in South Walpole. So Jim, maybe kick us off on this discussion, please.
Sure. So basically, I recall this coming up at the start of this project about turning and traffic and everything up there.
Yeah.
If you've been up there at all on the weekends and on our Fridays, I've been up there on Friday nights with the kids. It's pretty busy up there, and I think it's just a matter of time before residents are going to start asking about turning lanes. They're already asking us, or the recreation department, about bathrooms up there. So there's a demand there. The biggest problem we have right now is there's not enough data to support a turning lane, from what I understand. So I asked Rick and Carl to join us. So basically, if the board would like us to go forward with this, and it's not a town project, it's going to be a MassDOT project. There's a whole process we have to go through. That's why I'd asked Ben to put this on the agenda so the whole board could talk about it, and just kind of, I want your approval before I go forward and start the process on this. Rick, Carl, am I missing much on that one?
No, Jim, I don't know as if it would be a MassDOT project. It would probably be a town project under the guidance of Mass DOT out of the district. We'd have to construct it to their standards. And as you can see in Jim's memo, the district is not inclined to fund it at this particular time. To Jim's point about the traffic study that Weston and Sampson did during the construction or the design phase of the recreational facility, based on the information that they had, the left turn lane was not warranted at that time. It certainly wouldn't be a bad thing, but there again, this is something that the town would have to fund. It could be a very costly project being built to Mass DOT standards. Carl can give you all the technicalities of building such a thing, but it could be very costly. Carl, anything to offer?
Maybe Carl. Yeah, Carl, before we get into the technical, if you don't mind, Rick, maybe we could say a little bit more about the process. I mean, what would it entail? You know, we reach out to MassDOT, say we want to do something, then there's a schematic put together, they approve it, and we would then have to talk about funding. Obviously, it's a long-term process, but
right.
Is there more steps in that process than what I did?
Not really. The district has offered to meet with us, so I think that's the next step that we should probably take and find out exactly what they would be looking for in terms of level of design, and before we get too deep into it. I don't think it's a very difficult process. It's just something it's going to take a little bit of time and certainly more than a little bit of funding.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you. Yeah, Carl, please go ahead. Cut you off there.
Through the chair, good evening, Carl Bald of Town Engineer. I just really want to say there's not a lot I can add. The director and Jim have done a good job covering everything here. I agree with everything that Rick summarized on this. And, we don't have a lot more technical info to give other than the fact that, to incorporate a turning lane in there, if the department, if the DOT will let us, would involve significant amount of taper and widening because of the speeds on the road, et cetera, those kind of things. That's why quite early, even without a lot of information, it's not going to be cheap. And we'd have to follow the procedures. And I think the first thing is exactly what Rick said and Jim indicated in his memo. Sit down and discuss it with DOT before we go any further. But presuming that it's feasible, you have to go forward with further traffic study, design, preliminary design, go through the whole Mass DOT process to get work on a state highway approved, and we're going to have to fund all that. They basically said they don't have any plans for corridor improvements. they're not doing anything. So if we want to do this, it's on us. But like I say, I very much emphasized and said if this is something you want to pursue, then the first step is to sit down with the highway department and discuss it.
Yeah. Well, and the reason why we're talking about it is because it is a safety concern, right? I mean, I think we're all cognizant of the fact that it would cost quite a bit of money to change the road down there, to widen it, and to do all the striping and all of that. But I want to make sure that we do our due diligence from a safety perspective. So would one of the first steps be, Carl, to do a traffic study? I mean, you've both alluded to the fact that Weston and Sampson did one initially for the design of the facility, which didn't indicate that there'd really be a problem. But is that something that we might want to run a traffic study with the facility in use, or?
I would say that let's take the first step with the highway department before we even go to traffic study.
Okay. That's the next step is to talk to the DOT. Okay. Great. Jim Johnson, did you have anything else to add to that?
No, just I want to get a sense of what the board wants to do.
Sure. So why don't we go around here for questions and comments from the board. David, if we could start with you, please.
Thanks. Mr. Baldoff, I take it from your comments that it's not a simple matter of just repainting and putting an arrow in. It's a widening and changing of the lanes on both sides of the highway.
Potentially, yes.
And Mr. Johnson, how much did that cost at Siemens?
Oh God, that project, we're past 2.5 million. Carl, they've kicked in a lot of money. 3.5.
Well, if you take the first phase, which was the light at Siemens and all the widening up there, that project was a little over about $1.1 million, and that's not including design. We're and the second phase now, which is out on Route 1A, is on Route 1 is another $1 million, and yeah, where total project cost down there, we're up to about $2.5 million. We're not in that order of magnitude for Route 1A, but it's certainly costly.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think it's definitely worth looking into. I do think it's as Mr. Baldoff and others had alluded to, the road's not wide enough to just squeeze it by, especially with the speeds the cars are going. That you can just create a lane out of what's there, and we can at least start the process. I think I agree that waiting for a post-COVID situation and full-blown use of the fields before you do a traffic study might be useful too, to just get the facilities up and running there before you go into that. Thank you.
Thanks, David. Mark?
Yeah, I think it's worth looking into what the options are. Start with the DPW and then maybe go to the state. Theoretically, there's a lot of infrastructure money coming maybe down the road. Don't know what the rules are going to be on that, but there's potentially some money available. And I do sort of view this as a long-term project. Sports have been practicing there, over the last month. This coming Saturday will be the first big weekend where there's games scheduled back to back to back. So I think we'll have a pretty good idea of what's happening over the next couple of months. And I know that it does get busy down there on weeknights as the kids are going in for practice and coming out. So, we'll start to have some data available, but, viewing it as a long-term project, hopefully there's some federal money with the infrastructure plan coming through that maybe we can tap into down the road. So I'm all in favor of, taking the next step for sure.
Nice to sneak back in for a second.
Please.
Can we at least do something about, some signage on the roadway indicating that there's a left turn lane and that this maybe stop traffic ahead, something like that in the interim, especially with the new conditions and, people, not being used to it, get something going like that, or put out one of the police signs or something.
Yeah,
Rick, go ahead.
If I could, I think we'd have to run that through Mass DOT as well. make sure that everything meets the Mass Uniform Traffic Code. It's, you know, if they allow us to do it, I mean, we'd have no problem doing it. We just need to confirm with Mass DOT that it would be okay.
About the police sign, can we do that?
I'm sorry, David, what was
How
that?
about the police sign? Would be allowed to do that as a temporary measure? Just put out the sign that's saying, you know, left-hand turn ahead, new road conditions. Just a warning to vehicles that all of a sudden you might see a car stopped in the middle of the road in front of you.
There is,
In
yeah,
an
there
area
is.
where you back.
Yeah, there are two signs out there now, David, one in each direction that says something to the effect of ball field entrance ahead. It's not specifically saying, you know, caution, stopped vehicles or whatnot, but there is a large orange sign that says, I believe it says ball field entrance ahead. It's like a 4x4 regular size, large orange traffic sign. I don't know, you know, if those are gonna come down after construction is complete or not, if that's a part of the construction crews coming in and out of there. But I agree, David, I think we should at least have a sign there. There is a sign there, but like we should at least make sure that something stays there in the interim.
So what I'll say to that is, let's just try to reach out to MassDOT tomorrow and see if they got any problems with that. I think it's a good call. Just want to make sure they don't have a problem with it. Rick, Carl, you guys good with that?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Okay, Nancy, please.
I think Rick and Carl have a great plan. I think the place to start is Mass DOT. You know, we know that the traffic is just going to get much worse, and it's a long process. I think we should hear what they have to say, see what their thoughts are, and you know, once we have all that sort of information, then we can decide what direction to go in. But I do also like the idea if we can get that mobile sign up there, at least for this spring, because you know, there's plenty of big trucks and stuff like that to just kind of give them the heads up of a change of condition. Because as you're going up that hill, and then if the queuing got kind of long to be taking that left in there, it could be a problem. So I do think that's a great idea. And if we could find out and start the process, it sounds like a reasonable one. And bathrooms up there would be a really great idea, Jim.
Thanks, Nancy. Jim O'Neill.
Yeah, the first step is to get with DOT, so we should do that, see what the lay of the land is. I also think we should pursue hard the federal government for some funding on this. So, wonder if maybe a note penned to Congressman Lynch and our senators might be a good idea to at least get that on their radar as the infrastructure bill is starting to take shape. It seems to me like if we get in early, that might be a good idea. Ultimately, I think we do need to do a traffic study. So as the fields are getting into high gear this spring, that'd be a good time to do that. I'm not sure what we need to do to be prepared to do that traffic study, but it's something I'd also get moving on right away, so that we've got the facts and the data to back up the ask, you know, should the time come. So that's it, Ben. Thanks.
Thanks, Jim. And I don't have anything further to add. Rick and Carl, really appreciate you guys being with us here tonight. Obviously, it's something that we're going to be talking about here going down the road. But thanks for your input on this.
Thank you.
Jim Johnson, anything else to say?
Just to clarify, the sense I'm getting from the board is go forward, work with MassDOT, and report back to you guys when we get some more answers. And just made a note to myself to probably put aside some money for a traffic study request in the fall when we go for town meeting, capital.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable, Jim. Thanks.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to the next item under new business is discussion and vote on the mass housing letter for the proposed residences at Darwin Common, which is a comprehensive permit 40B project. Pat, I see you joined us again. Jim Johnson, do you want to lead us into that? with anything?
Yeah, so actually Patrick worked on this for me. We got this a couple of months ago, I think right before he started. This is a project for a 28 unit 40B home ownership townhouse style on 3.44 acres of land right off of at the end of Darwin. If you don't know where Darwin is, the right off of Common Street, right when you go through Washington going towards Route 1A. Obviously 28 houses, a lot of houses on just 3.4 acres. So what I asked, usually in the past we've asked the Ashley, the previous ones, I asked Ashley to work with Patrick, which he did an excellent job putting this together, just to kind of follow kind of our boilerplate, make sure we touch upon all the important items, and make sure that mass housing, here's our concerns prior to the project. They did grant us a 1-month extension on this one, so we have until April 8th to respond to them. So we prepared the letter. Patrick, you want to add anything?
No. So obviously reviewing the project, I'm sure you may have all read the letter as well. There were certainly deficiencies within the application, obviously with it being preliminary itself. That is one thing to take into consideration, but there were some prominent concerns, both by myself, Ashley, and the department heads, in terms of just the location and just the application itself had deficiencies, had kind of misstatements and errors. So a lot of that is noted within the letter, and I'm happy to answer any questions or any comments you all may have.
Okay, great. So we'll just go around the horn here with the board members with any questions or comments on this package that Pat has put together with the department head. So, David, if we could start with you, please.
So on page 1 of the letter, in the 3rd paragraph, there are a number of bulleted items. What are the purposes of those items? What does that tell?
So the reason,
housing and why are they there?
So the reason why we want to kind of address that is to notify the mass housing that the town has been actively trying to look into its affordable housing needs, both through obviously the housing production plan, looking into inclusionary zoning. The town has hired consultants, obviously, Judy Barrett being one of them in terms of 40B consultant. We recently applied for housing choice designation just due to the number of units that the town has produced within the past 5 years. So we're trying to obviously to notify mass housing that the town isn't against quality affordable housing or good projects. The town is trying to actively address its deficiencies in terms of affordable housing. So we just want to make clear to mass housing that when it comes to this project, that we're judging this project based on the merit of its application and based on the content of its application. Not that it is affordable housing, but just more or less the technicalities of the application itself.
So none of those items give us any special safe harbor or anything. It's just, as you said, just a way of showing that we're doing this in good faith.
Exactly. We want to obviously kind of paint the picture that the town is actively trying to address its housing needs.
Okay, so I would suggest that then we tell the truth and indicate to them that the inclusionary zoning bylaw was actually failed at the last town meeting. I think this is a little deceitful in the sense that it says this is ongoing when in fact it lost at the last town meeting.
So if I could ask David, this is your letter, it's coming from the board. Could you direct Pat and I how the board would like this worded then?
Well, I would indicate the real status, either in a footnote or however, what the intentions are, what has happened so far. I think, I received a lecture on this in the past, and there was an indication that, there was going to be an attempt to refile within the 2-year moratorium, that in fact, and then there was told that the governor's, the new provisions only required a majority vote, and I don't think that's true. Have we looked into that at all as to whether or not
That is actually KP Law issued a legal opinion on that one that they sent out to all the cities and towns. I can provide you with a copy of that. That in fact did move forward.
And what was the result of that?
In short, the answer is no. That they specifically, they being in the legislature, specifically carved out inclusionary zoning bylaws from the majority vote, David. So
what are you saying? That a simple majority is all that's needed?
No. A simple majority is all that's needed for almost all housing votes that we would take. However, they carved out inclusionary zoning bylaws. Correct me, Pat, if I'm wrong here. But they carved out inclusionary zoning bylaws, said that still required a supermajority.
Yeah, I believe the nature was more to do with creation of multifamily, whereas, you know, the affordable nature of it was still supermajority. Multifamily proposals in terms of, you know, bylaw amendments or if something were before a regulatory board dealing with a special permit, those have been changed more or less to a simple majority, but specifically affordable housing, as like an inclusionary zoning bylaw would be, still remain the same voting criteria.
Really what they did, they set out a specific set of criteria in which less than a super majority would be allowed, and affordable housing was not among them.
Yes.
My other concern with the letter is the concern about the aquifer. There was a study, I think, in the mid 80s or late 80s, done of the aquifer, and this property was listed as one of the most important properties for the town to acquire in order to protect the aquifer. The town was offered several solutions to this prior to this 40B application. And I think this should be made clear in the letter as well, that the town was offered an opportunity to swap other town land to take over this property for to protect the aquifer, and the town declined. The town was also offered a very reasonable price to acquire this land, which they also declined. It's also interesting that in the past the town has refused to honor extensions of the roadway and smaller developments for this property. And now suddenly we're acting like the victim, where we should have acquired this land at a reasonable price. And I would argue that the fact is that in this town, because it's Mr. Hasenjager's land, the town did not take that seriously and did not do that. This is the most important property on the list to protect the aquifer, and yet because Mr. Hasenjager owned it, you refused to do it. Secondly, you did acquire the Jarvis Farm property, which is either the third or the fourth property on that list from that study from the mid-80s. And that property you paid 3 times the best appraisal you could get, and you refused to deal with this owner because you don't like him, because he's not the right people. So I just think this whole, you know, these letters don't have much effect, but I think we ought to be straightforward with the mass housing that, you know, this is a situation of our own creation.
Okay. Thanks, David. Mark.
I would say that I think the letter's on the right track, and I disagree with most of what David just said. I didn't realize David was such a big sponsor for purchasing that land. I don't remember you speaking so aggressively for buying that land back when that was an option. So it's surprising that you're bringing that forward now. I do think that this is a fairly big development for a pretty small parcel, and I think the points that are raised in the letter do a good job identifying the issues that the town will have with that property. Thanks.
Okay. Jim O'Neill.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. Just make sure my mic is on. Yeah, okay, good.
Good.
Yeah, so yeah, likewise, I think the letter is very well written, Patrick. So thank you for taking the lead on that. And it covers most of the things that we typically see in these situations regarding the density and the location and the neighborhoods and all those kinds of things. So nothing really terribly surprising there. I did want to ask a couple of quick questions though on that the note regarding the aquifer. Did the sewer and water board weigh in on this? The water and sewer board, did they weigh in on this at all?
Yes, their letter was kind of where I took a lot of that response from, in terms of the pervious surface and the proximity to the aquifer.
And presumably they were concerned about putting this development there because of those things, and I assume the stormwater drainage issues as well.
Yeah, let me just bring up the share screen just to show you their letter. That might help. So before you, just kind of the letter I had from the Board of Sewer and Water Commissioners, and just a few of the points that they had brought up regarding the aquifer and obviously the development itself, such as a fence surrounding the 400-foot protection zone during construction and possible post-construction, adding signage, construction, and post-construction labeling the area as a protected zone. Require the developer of the proposed project proponent to do an environmental study relative to the location and the site of the wells. Impervious surface, be as close as 15% should be the goal, and I believe I noted that in the letter. And then requesting comments from the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection and Water Resources Commission is one of an additional concern of theirs.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you. That's helpful. The other question was the length of the road going in. If I understood it correctly, there's only one way in and out into this part of the neighborhood. It's a long way in. It doesn't really say how much longer than the 750 foot that we generally look for is the limit, but it sounds like it's a lot longer than that. So can you talk a little bit about that and what that all means?
So that is, I believe, in the town's subdivision rules and regulations regarding length of a dead-end road. And so from what I could gather from the history of Darwin Lane itself, I believe the road is already over 750 feet. The continuation with incorporating Darwin Commons would greatly exceed that. And so that was a comment that I had received through the fire department letter, just notifying obviously of the safety concerns when you have a road of that length without no secondary point of ingress or egress. And so that was just kind of one of those concerns I wanted to highlight with the project itself. Obviously it's not a subdivision, but we kind of have to treat it almost as such when we look at the scale of development within that area.
Okay, and then the last thing I had is I think there might be a typo on page 3, but it might be an important typo. So right under where it says ongoing 40B, the second to last sentence, it says accept, but should it say expect?
Yes, you are correct.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, so just want to make sure we catch that before we send it in. Okay.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Patrick. That's it then. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. And sorry, Nancy, I skipped you. Go ahead.
That's okay. I just wanted to note that having been on the planning board when Darwin was approved, if it could have had any more development on it, it would have. So they did max out what they could do as far as by right. And if this was a priority, I'm not sure why water and sewer didn't purchase it, but they're the ones that haven't made that initiative, just to remind you. And it absolutely never has been a vote of mine because of who the owner is of it. That is just a little bit insulting, and I don't think right to say. you know, to me, there's some problems with this property as far as its huge slope that it has. But, you know, I remember that the project was allowed to do everything that it could by right and already had some waivers on it. So just to make sure that we're telling all the truths, as you referenced before, David. But with clerical correction, I would like to make a motion to authorize the chair to sign the letter to Mass Housing regarding the proposed residence at Darwin Common 40B project.
Could I second that, but have some additional discussion on that?
Sure.
David mentioned he may want to suggest some language that's a little different from what's in the letter. I know the letter's got to go in the next 2 days, so I just wanted to circle back to David and see if there was anything specific he wanted to change in the wording before we vote on that.
Sure, David, please.
Yeah, I would just suggest that the current status of the affordable housing provisions be highlighted, or at least even if it's just a footnote indicating what the current status of things are, so that it's not leaving something out by omission that as to the current status, that in fact it's kind of sort of in a limbo, and there is an attempt to bring it back, but just make it clear that it failed and what the status is, and I'd be satisfied with that.
Absolutely.
For correction, it says drafting an inclusionary zoning bylaw. It doesn't reference that.
I understand that, but but by not indicating that that they drafted an inclusionary bylaw that it hasn't in fact failed is a little disingenuous and unclear. And I think it's better to be clear about the current status rather than just bury it that way. I mean, they may already be aware of the attempts and the failure. I mean, I believe they probably follow these things.
We've also attempted to do a complete zoning rewrite about 8 years ago, and that didn't go anywhere either.
Yeah, so again, I'd ask the question, is there something specific that we should add to maybe bullet 4 on the first page to highlight what David wants to say before we vote it, or, because I think it's important for us to vote this tonight.
Well, just make a footnote to the one where it says that it's being drafted, and say that a previous version of the exclusionary zoning bylaw has been drafted over a period of several years, and it was on the agenda on the fall town meeting, and it failed along with the attempt at creating the trust, and that there are renewed attempts to try and bring this back despite the fact that there is a 2-year moratorium, something to that effect.
Or how about redrafting an inclusionary zoning bylaw, and then at the end of it say that will hopefully be ready when the 2-year moratorium is passed.
I just indicated what I liked. If that's not the feeling of the board, that's fine.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion from the board? Any further comment? Okay, we'll proceed with the roll call.
Ben, just because I think I want to be clear on what we're really voting for, I'm assuming that we're voting to include the language that David suggested as a footnote.
No, we're not.
We're
But
not.
if somebody wants to come up with something that we can write in there, I'm more than happy to have it be amended. Yeah, if there's something else, Jim, that if you want to phrase that in a different way, that's acceptable. Motion on the second is as it stands currently. I'm open to amending that. I personally don't find it disingenuous, but that's fine. I'm open to amending it.
All right, I'll drop it. Thanks.
Okay. All right. So we have a motion. We have a second. I believe it's as written, unless Mark, did you qualify your second?
Nope.
No. Okay. All right. So we'll proceed with the roll call votes. David.
No.
Mark.
Aye.
Nancy.
Aye.
Jim.
Aye.
And Ben, aye. The motion passes 4-1-0. Moving on to the next item under new business for this evening is a discussion and vote to sign a license to enter and use real property at 123 Washington Street with Hollingsworth and Bose. Jim, if you could bring us up to speed on this.
So I know Phil Mackey is on this call. He represents H&V. H&V recently acquired a piece of property across the street, which does not have access to it itself. From my understanding, the desire here is to have H&V come in, knock down the house that they acquired, and they really have no access to that property. They're asking for the town to access it through a small parcel that we own that's actually in the process. It's been in the process of being taken via tax title for some time. Lisa is working through it. I expect us to be able to auction it off maybe in the next 6 to 12 months. So right now what H&V is looking to do is just a simple license agreement to be able to access our property. If you look at the map I provided, as you make your way up Mansion Drive right there, it's to the right of that on the parcel, the map I showed you here in Google Earth. And they're just looking to access it so they can knock down the house, nothing more, nothing less. Phil's indicated they'll put the premises back to the condition they found it in, and they will pay us a license fee of $1,000 and cover our legal costs associated with this. I have worked with Mark Rich, our town council, on this, so is Phil. Both councilors are comfortable with it, and it's ready for the board. Phil, anything to add?
Jim, I think you covered it pretty well. All I can say is one of the driving factors, there is access from Washington Street, but if you've driven by there, you know that the very first White House has about a 5-foot wall. And if your board does actually authorize this, I think it makes everyone's life better because we don't have to close off a lane at Washington Street for an extended period of time, which I think just benefits everybody. Other than that, Jim, I think covered everything better than I could.
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mackey. So we'll go around here to the board. Any questions from Mr. Mackey or comments? David?
So this is just for the purposes of taking down the building. Is that correct?
Yes.
Great. And is your client going to be a bidder at our tax sale, I hope?
I believe they're probably the only people who could do anything with that piece of property. So, yes.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Mark?
No questions. I think this makes sense, so.
Okay. Nancy?
No questions. I'm ready for a motion when you want one.
Jim O'Neill?
My only question was in the section 6 where it says alteration of the premises. Does that in any way, shape, or fashion conflict with the activity that's going to happen on the site?
No, it doesn't. That's a short answer. I can go into more detail if you need it. But effectively, they're just trying to get there because the premises is on level with Washington Street, and they can do all their work not in the middle of the road. They can do it off the side.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I'm good.
Great. Thanks, Jim. Nancy?
I'll make a motion to authorize the chair to sign the license and enter and use real property for 123 Washington Street with Hollingsworth and Bose.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Being that there's no further discussion, we'll proceed with the roll call vote. David?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Nancy?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Ben, aye. The motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Mackey.
Thank you very much, Chairman.
Nice seeing you, Phil.
Thanks, guys.
Good evening. Next item under new business is a vote to authorize TA Jim Johnson to sign on behalf of the town the notice of activity and use limitation package at the Blackburn Union Privileges Superfund site. Jim?
Sure. This is it's called a null for short, which is essentially it's a deed restriction on the properties on the Superfund site just located off of South Street that we've done so much development on. The EPA is requiring that we do this just basically to identify, here's the site, this is what you're doing with it. So basically, I asked Wilcox and Barton and Town Council to review this. David Foss, who's been with us from the beginning on this one, has looked it over. He is agreeing that the null is just about complete with the deed restrictions. The terms of the conditions are consistent with the expectations set forth on the commencement of the brownfields redevelopment process, and the limitations set forth are appropriate and protective of future users and, of course, the town. So it's been, we have to record it and everything, and they're just asking that the board authorize me to sign on behalf of the town. And once again, EPA is requiring this, and they're the driving force here.
Okay. Any further comment or questions from the board on this? Otherwise, we would hear a motion.
I'll make a motion to authorize the town administrator, Jim Johnson, to sign on behalf of the town the notice of activity and use of limitation package at the Blackburn and Union Privileges Superfund site. And I did just want to add that it's weird to even talk about this site without Robin.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Being that there's no further discussion, we'll proceed with the roll call vote. David?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Nancy?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Ben, aye. The motion passes 5-0-0. Next item under new business is discussion and vote on the intermunicipal agreement with the town of Norwood to share animal control officer services. Jim?
Sure. This is something that I think I've updated the board on a couple times. I've been working closely with Tony over in Norwood. Their board of select, I think they're a select board still now. They've authorized this, and they've already voted on it. This is basically going to regionalize our ACO position here. We're going to be sharing it with Norwood. They're going to take the lead as far as it's going to be their employee. They're going to handle the health insurance costs, the OPEB liability, and they're going to basically send the town of Walpole a bill once a month. And we'll handle it the same way we've handled the Veterans Services Officer, where we're the lead point and Medfield's our partner with it. I think this is a nice project to kind of, I know some people have pushed, let's go regional where we can. So we're doing it now with Norwood on the ACO. We've done it with Medfield on the Veterans Services, and we're doing it with Sharon and Norwood on the Green Communities person. I've already received another town who's interested in joining us with this, so the cost may even go down. Westwood's expressed an interest. So it's something that I think is good. John's been gone for a couple of months now. Henry is covering for us now, but I'd like to go forward with formalizing this. The Finance Committee has taken a vote to place the money from personnel services into the expense line items. So we have enough money there. It's going to cost approximately $84,000 a year in this one, and we'll still be responsible for maintaining our kennel and moving forward with that. But Tony and I both agreed, let's reevaluate things after doing this for a year and make sure it's working. So it's ready to go for the board. I'll take any questions you may have.
Okay, great. Any questions or comments from the board members? Jim?
Yeah, just quickly, first of all, I think it's a really good idea, Jim, and congratulate you for looking for these opportunities to do the regionalizational thing where it makes sense. And I think this is a good example of one where it makes sense. So thanks for that. My question is around coverage. At one point, I think I understood that by getting into this arrangement, we were also going to find ourselves in a better coverage model because there would be multiple people involved. And so we'd have, rather than one person covering 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, which is really where we've been, that we'd have a different coverage model. Do I understand that correctly?
Yes, so we're gonna have an animal control officer and then a deputy. And Tony had he had wanted to do a third person, maybe 3/4 of the year through. I asked him to just cut back on that. Let's see how we do with the ACO and the deputy and reevaluate it after a year. I understand the reasons why, because obviously it's easier to approach this with 3 people instead of 2, but he agreed and we left it at 2 people.
Great, thank you, Jim, appreciate it.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
Just one other question, if I may.
Oh, David, please, yeah.
So how many vehicles do they have?
They have 1, and they're going to be using ours, and we have some protection in it for ours in the agreement too. So they just have the 1.
Okay, great. Yeah, as you said, it seems like this is going to be an evolving question, and it's to see what the coverage is. But thank you for pursuing this.
Thank you.
So, one thing, so will the kennel be closed?
No, so say they catch a dog outside of the McKenzie household in Walpole, they're going to be.
Hey.
They're likely going to be bringing it to our kennel unless it's just one person on and it's easier for him. But no, the kennel will not be closed.
So will then all the Walpole dogs go to the Walpole kennel and all Norwood dogs go to the Norwood kennel?
Right now, yes, but it could evolve.
It could evolve. Okay.
I'll keep you.
I'm just thinking that we should probably be posting that or something. You know what I mean? Maybe making a link on, our town or police page that kind of connects directly to Norwood also.
Oh, that's easy enough. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Just so that if somebody is looking, Patty might want to be in the mix of this because she is on for the Walpole Pets page, Lost Pets, that, maybe we could do something like that just because where it is different and it is going to be evolving, that way we just can keep the public in the loop.
Sure.
And then with that being said, I will make a motion to sign the intermunicipal agreement with the town of Norwood to share the animal control officer services.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Being that there's no further discussion, we'll proceed with the roll call vote. David?
Yes.
Mark?
Aye.
Nancy?
Yes.
Jim?
Aye.
And Ben? Yes. The motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Jim, again, for putting all that together and putting that agreement together with Norwood. I think that's going to be a good thing.
No problem. My pleasure.
Good stuff. Okay, last item under new business is the vote request for change of officers, Texas Roadhouse Holdings.
I'll make a motion to approve the request for change of officers and directors for the Texas Roadhouse Holdings LLC.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further questions or discussion from the board? Being that there is none, we'll proceed with the roll call vote. David?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Nancy?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Ben? Aye. The motion passes 5-0. Okay, under unfinished business, we will continue our discussion and vote on further Springtown meeting articles. Jim Johnson, if you could just walk us through the articles that we're going to be looking at tonight. I know that you had issued a memorandum.
Yeah, sure. If you're okay, Ben, I'll just run through the articles that the board hasn't voted on yet, and then we can kind of start back at the top if you're good with that. So.
Great, please, yeah.
Okay, so Article 5 is the in-year budget adjustment article. We've talked I know this board's met with Chief Bailey to discuss this. It's requesting funds from older capital projects that are completed, about $43,000 there, and the remaining balance to come from free cash. So a total of $170,000 for the in-year budget adjustments. And right now it's just the fire department that needs anything. And if something comes up between beginning of May and end of June, we can address it through the reserve fund. The next article up is the water enterprise fund, the in-year budget adjustment for that one. That's going to be a no action. There's nothing necessary there. Article 9 is the sewer enterprise fund in-year budget adjustment. Initially, it's going to be very close, that budget. initially I thought, well, we'll take our chances and do a no action on that one, but Bill Abbott and Bernie got together and they wanted to just make sure that the town's covered and the sewer and water commissioners are protected on that one. So they asked for $200,000 from retained earnings just to offset any potential deficit there. I told Finance Committee I didn't see any problem with it, just to be safe. Any of that extra money will go back to retained earnings for the sewer budget. So they recommended favorable action on that for $200,000. The next one up is snow and ice deficit. We have about $200,000 or so left in that account, and it's not going to snow again until next December. So we're good to go on that one. So no action there. The Article 17 is the zoning bylaws for the stadium parking. I would recommend to hold off on that one for now, as long as possible. It looks as though the Finance Committee is waiting for the Planning Board to make them vote on this one. The chair has raised some concerns about the way the article is worded and the notification given to abutters. So they're going to meet on the 15th of April to discuss it and likely continue their meeting until the 29th, so just before town meeting. So what I'm likely going to recommend to the board is just keep this on the agenda, and if we need it, worst case scenario, you vote the morning of town meeting at 9:30 on this article, because we'll have a sense of what the planning board's doing. 18 is the zoning bylaws overlay district. That is actually being proposed for Harwood Engineering, just in back of there, located off of South Street, just past Southridge Nursery, for a solar farm in back there. 19 is the pilot agreement for that solar farm. That's requesting authorization for town meeting to allow this board to enter into an agreement on that one. And 20 is the request to transfer funds out of Norfolk County Retirement. At this time, the Finance Committee has taken no action on that article, and that's it.
Okay, so we're looking to, or conceivably, Jim, what you're saying is we could vote on all of the ones you ran through tonight, with the exception of 17?
Yes, that's still in limbo.
Okay, all right.
I'll make a motion for favorable action for Article 5.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion or questions from the board on Article 5? Being that there is none, we'll proceed with a roll call vote. David?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Nancy?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Ben, aye. Motion passes. Favorable action, Article 5, 500.
I'll make a motion for no action for Article 7.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further questions or discussion from the board? Being that there is none, we'll proceed with a roll call vote. David?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Nancy?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
And Ben, aye. Motion passes 500. No action on Article 7.
I'll make a motion for favorable action on Article 9.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion from the board? Being that there is none, we'll proceed with a roll call vote. David?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Nancy?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Ben, aye. Motion passes 500. Favorable action, Article 9.
I'll make a motion for no action on Article 11.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Being that there is none, we'll proceed with a roll call vote. David?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Nancy?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Ben, aye. The motion passes 500. No action, Article 11.
I will be skipping Article 17 for us to keep it on our agenda, forward agenda. I will make a motion for favorable action for Article 18.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion from the board? Being that there is none, we'll proceed with a roll call vote. David?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Nancy?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Ben, aye. The motion passes 500. Favorable action, Article 18.
I will make a motion for favorable action for Article 19.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion from the board? Being that there is none, we'll proceed with the roll call vote. David?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Nancy?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Ben, aye. The motion passes 5-0. Favorable action. Article
I will
9.
make a motion for no action for Article 20.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or questions from the board?
I will be voting no action too, but I think it's certainly, I would be afraid to do this, currently without some further investigation. I mean, I don't think it's as easy as just saying, like moving a bank account from one bank to another. I suppose that there ought to be a mechanism or at least a discussion somewhere as to whether or not this is a viable alternative. I don't know that it is or isn't, but I think it's worth looking at. And I did hear from the discussion that came up that what happens with the OPEB money that we currently are stashing away?
It is, Ben, you okay if I answer?
Please.
It's currently in a trust fund account with the, I believe it's with Rockland. And there's a balance of about $4.5 million in there. We had Parker on a couple of months ago, and I think his the OPEB liability was high. I feel like it was like $52 million. So they recently conducted that actuarial audit, as you might recall.
So is there any benefit to putting that money somewhere else?
I could certainly look into it if the board would like me to.
So again, I don't know. I think I don't even know if the Norfolk County system and the state system have different retirement ages, different benefits. I think it would be an extremely difficult process to go through. But I you know, it may be worth at least allowing that discussion to take place and you know, having a more full report of that.
Okay, thanks, David. Yeah, and I'd use that opportunity to plug the FinCom meetings. The Finance Committee had a very in-depth, detailed discussion on this Article 20 prior to voting. No action.
That, but it sometimes takes staff and more communications in a more favorable manner than just the applicants coming up with this information.
Agreed. I'm speak solely for people who are watching this and are wondering what Article 20 actually means. They should go back and watch that FinCom meeting because they get into the nitty gritty about it. It's very informative. At least I found it very informational. So we have a motion and a second. We'll proceed with the roll call vote. David?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Nancy?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
And Ben? Aye. Motion passes 5-0. No action on Article 20.
So Ben, I'll keep the board updated on Article 17. Our last meeting this month is, I think we have a meeting the 28th. So I'll let you know after the next meeting where we stand with this.
So we have a meeting on the 20th,
20th, okay. So.
but we can always, you know, if needed, set whatever needs to happen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
I
worst
think
case, we'll have a meeting. I'll ask you to have a special meeting or something right before town meeting.
Yeah, I think that we should all be prepared for that, Jim. This seems like with the notice and all of the details still being worked out with the planning board and the petitioners and council, I think everyone should just be ready to do that. I think that's the way it's gonna go. So, given the time that we have left. All right, so consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to accept multiple gifts for Paul Pelletier to the Council on Aging gifts. For Paul Pelletier from Laura and Eric, Hector Hernandez, Joanne Landers, Leonard Monson, Linda Ponicelli, and Pina Rita, Jeannie Thomas, and all varying amounts.
I'll second that.
May I just interject?
Please.
I just wanted to indicate Mr. Pelletier's family had listed in the obituary to, in lieu of flowers, give donations to the Council on Aging, and then that's the source of this more than $500 in donations. I wonder if we could perhaps look for something that we could put his name on at the center.
Okay, thank you, David.
That's a great idea, David.
Okay, so I'm sorry, we have a motion, and did we have a second?
Yes, I seconded it.
We have a motion and a second. We'll proceed to the roll call vote. David?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Nancy?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Ben, aye. Motion passes 5-0.
I'll make a motion to accept various donations to the Recreation Smiling Eyes Financial Assistance Program.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Proceed to the roll call vote. David?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Nancy?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Ben, aye. The motion passes 5-0.
I will make a motion to accept a gift from the Walpole Cooperative Bank for the Recreation Community Events account in the amount of $500.
Second that.
We have a motion and a second. Proceed with the roll call vote. David?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Nancy?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
And Ben, aye. Motion passes 5-0.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for March 23rd, 2021 as presented in our packet.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions on the meeting minutes? Being that there is none, we'll proceed with the roll call vote. David?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Nancy?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
And Ben, aye. Motion passes 5-0. And town administrators update.
Sure, just a few items to go over. COVID update, this time we have 1,905 total confirmed cases. 1,851 have completed monitoring. We currently have 54 active cases. Town meeting, we're in the process of getting ready for town meeting. I just drafted the motions today, sent them off to council. We're set to go on May 1st at 10 o'clock in the morning on Turco Field at the Walpole High School. The Finance Committee is set to hold their public hearing via Zoom on Tuesday, April 27th at 6 p.m. A couple side notes on Route 1A. Route 1A on the southbound side, starting at about Napper Tandy's and going down to Cumberland Farms. I received a couple of inquiries about that stretch of sidewalks there. They're kind of a mess. So Rick and I've reached out to our state delegation. Rick reached out to MassDOT to ask them if we could have some improvements there, especially with the handicap accessibilities, and it's just kind of a mess. So they got back to Rick and let them know that their maintenance division's taking a look at it, and they agree that some work's needed there. They've decided to move forward with repairing portions of the existing sidewalks that require immediate attention, adding curb ramps at the intersections that currently don't have them. Right now they don't have the funding in place for the sidewalks on both sides, but they are going to try to get something in place. Representative Rogers and Feeney have been really integral in moving this forward, and it's really needed in that stretch of road there. The Route 1A going from Conrad's up to Norwood, there was some talk recently on social media about that work. That's you'll probably notice the signs that are up in the center. As you may recall, this work started back in 1997. The town initiated a transportation improvement program, TIP for short, on that section of roadway. This work that's going to go forward involves new drainage pipes, new road base, paving, new sidewalks, traffic signals at Bullard, Fisher, and North, including a warning at Kendall Street, and the replacement of the bridge at North in the Neponset River. Significant amount of work at Cobb's Pond over the culvert there, and the MBTA stone archway roadway that passes right over. So Eversource has been out there performing the necessary utility work along the corridor, And we've been told that the work is going to now start on April 12th. However, I'm not holding my breath, and it's likely going to change. So we're working on developing a section of our website so residents can go similar to what we've done with the 40B projects, especially Summer Street. You can go there, get as much information as possible. And Carl, myself, Rick, Mike Donovan are working on putting it together, because just so people can go one central place and get some information on that. So it'll be up pretty soon, and we'll put as much information out there as possible, and we'll continue to grow it as the project moves on. That's it for me.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Any other comments or questions from the board for Jim on the update?
Can we have just an update? I would like to see on that website or information soon about what the traffic plan is, because I remember at one point it was going to be one ways and pass arounds, and I just think we ought to be informing businesses and everybody as soon as possible about that. I don't know if that process has already taken place.
I actually, when I got this idea to put this website up, I reached out to Deputy Kelleher and the chief and asked them to make sure that I do want to put a map up there, but I want it to be the most accurate and up-to-date one. So we'll have something up there, especially with the detours and everything.
I think a special call to the Conley bus might be useful as well, because they're really going to have an issue when this all is a mess.
They are. And we will.
Yeah, it's interesting when you look at the state website for this project, nothing's been updated. So, well, I know that Jim, you're striving to do your best, and Rick and Carl and everybody. So the information will get out there as soon as you get it, I know. So I think this website is a good idea, but for folks to realize that you are waiting on the state for information in that regard. Okay, any other business or comments from the board? Being that there is none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Proceed with the roll call vote. Motion to adjourn. David?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Nancy?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
And Ben, aye. The motion passes 5-0. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.
Bye.
Thank you.
Night.
Night.